before we start, I just want to thank this one guy in the comments that actually helped me to fix this texture so it looks nice and clean right now. And I've also added this hole over here. That's for the trigger cover. So I'm gonna put this guy's comment here. If anyone has the same problem, just know that you can fix it. So yeah. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of the AK-47 modeling series. Today we're gonna be modeling the receiver, the mag, the trigger, and this part. I don't know what's this thing called. So let's get right into it. So first, I'm going to bring up some references. I'm gonna put it somewhere on the right. Okay, I got some beautiful references here of the lower receiver, of the trigger, of the fire changer, and this upper receiver. So I'm gonna start by modeling this base, the lower receiver. Just add a plane, wireframe mode, shape out these vertices just how they should be. Take this, extrude it upwards, and you can see that there's this small dent over here. We're gonna do that now. This thing goes a little bit down, just like this over here. And let's just fill these two. Just flip the faces and scale it down by y-axis just so you align it with the blueprint. And just take and fill these edges, just like that. We get an end gun over here, but we can actually fix it just by adding a loop cut down here, aligning it with this one, and just joining these vertices over here, and adding the loop cut over here, joining these faces over here, and we got a quad over here. Now I'm just gonna symmetrize it to the other side, just like that, and we got rid of one end gun. Now to get rid of the second one, just do the same thing like you did. It's important to slide by pressing double G, so it remains this curve over here and doesn't go like this, basically. And add a one loop cut over here. I might as well move it up a little bit. Now I join these two vertices, just like that, and join these vertices. Now just symmetrize it. Okay, and these should be full quads right now. Okay, so to all those topology lovers, this is how you can fix it. Now on the other side, you can see on this reference, on the other side, there's this small dent that goes like this, and it's not instantly like this. So we're gonna do that by opening the reference on this side and hiding this one. Okay, this is the thing I was talking about. So just add a loop cut somewhere where you think it should be, and another loop cut over here, so we define this thing, this face over here. Add a loop cut over here, just right where it ends. Now I'm gonna take these two faces and you're gonna delete them because we don't need it. You're gonna take this edge and you're gonna scale it by z-axis just on this level, and simply just fill these faces. Once you're done, just check for any unnecessary geometry. I don't seem to find one, so we are good. Now we defined the base shape of it. You can see on the reference, let me open this one. You can see on the reference that there are these small details over here like bolts and stuff. Okay, I decided that I'm gonna leave it for the last part of the series, okay, where I'm gonna be adding these details. So I'm not gonna be doing those details right now. We're just gonna leave it like this now. I'm just gonna do that in the end of the series, basically. Now I might add a bevel over here with a few segments and dissolve these vertices, okay, because it just looks good. It looks better. Now if I shade it smooth, it looks pretty good. Okay, we're good. Now we're gonna do the trigger and the trigger cover. So first thing we gotta do, you can see there's a small little dent that we didn't do, so we're gonna do that right now. Just add two loop cuts to define these 2 points. Now add a loop cut and bevel it with one segment, just where you think it should be. Now take this face down here, just push it where it should be. Now shift duplicate this, P to separate, press this, and dissolve it so it gets only one face, so it's a beautiful quad, and delete this unnecessary vertices over here, or I should rather say just dissolve them. Scale it down just slightly so it goes off it a little bit, and what you're gonna do, you're gonna add 2 loop cuts right now and gonna scale it by y-axis just a little bit. Take this face, extrude it downwards. You might as well, you can see that it goes like this, okay? So there should be a cut over here. So you add a loop cut over here, you delete these faces, you delete this top one as well, over here, it's deleted. Now we can delete these 2 faces over here, tear these 2 edges, so now all these are independent. Gonna select these edges and you're going to bevel them slightly. Select this, you're gonna make that thick by pressing Alt E. Oh yes, delete this face down here. Select everything, Alt E, extrude faces along normals. Extrude it slightly, okay, you don't need to do it that much, just extrude it slightly. Now take these 2 top vertices, extrude them down slightly to get this thickness over here. Let me find the reference. The thickness over here, okay? Take this edge, move it on the y-axis and snap it with this vertex over here. So you can just take and connect these faces. Now I'm going to delete this face because it's an unnecessary geometry which we don't need later on. So fill this face. I can see an unnecessary geometry over here as well. Okay, now take everything, flip the faces so it faces the correct way, and just symmetrize it on the other way. Now symmetrizing is basically adding a mirror modifier and instantly applying it. So yeah, you're just gonna do that by clicking on the object, clicking on modifiers tab, add a modifier, and just and add a mirror modifier and just apply it. But I'm not gonna do that because I already did it. Now I might as well delete these faces so it looks much cleaner, and I'm going to bevel these edges and dissolve these vertices over here so we don't get this geometry over here, and delete these 2 faces, also unnecessary geometry. Okay, make sure normals are facing the correct way. Bevel these 2 edges over here and just slightly so we get this curved shape over here. Now I'm going to delete this aftermath of the symmetrizing thing. I'm gonna add 2 loop cuts, scale them by y-axis, pull this face down just slightly. You are going to extrude it slightly and delete these faces over here. You're gonna take it, you're gonna start basically not shaping it out, but slightly moving this over here, extruding this over here, and extruding this a little bit out. Now as you can see, I met this hole over here for this trigger cover, so I'm gonna be using it right now just so it looks better, okay? And might as well just slide this vertex a little bit back here. Now we're going to tear this part so we get an independent cover. I might as well pull this a little bit down, okay, and slide this in slightly. Now I'm gonna bevel it. I'm gonna bevel this as well, just like that. Now we're just gonna add some thickness by selecting it and extrude faces along normals. Take this edge and you put it slightly back here. You're just gonna delete this face over here, merge everything, select these vertices, and bridge edge loops. Now let's do the trigger. Now first we're gonna make this hole, so just place your 3D cursor somewhere on this edge, add a plane, scale it down, and just roughly shape it out, okay? Now it goes just right where the half of this trigger cover is, okay? And you're gonna take it and make a loop cut over here, 2 loop cuts on this side, scale them by y-axis, take these 2 edges, extrude those, scale them by y-axis, take these 2, extrude them by x-axis, and you're just gonna slightly bevel these vertices. Now take everything, extrude it up, flip the normals, and apply a boolean modifier. Now for the trigger, it's very easy. Just add a plane, rotate it by x-axis, scale it down. In a wireframe mode, just basically start shaping the trigger. You're just gonna do that by selecting vertices and just slightly extruding them. And once you've done that, just select these edge loops, hit right click, loop tools. If you don't have your loop tools activated, first of all, why didn't you activate it yet? Just head on to preferences, add-ons, search for loop, okay, loop, and here you go, mesh, loop tools. You're just gonna hit on this button, that's it. And right click, loop tools, space, right click, loop tools, relax, so you get this beautiful transition. Extrude it slightly, okay, make it thick. Delete this side of the mesh and symmetrize it, or basically apply a mirror modifier. Now this is too thick, so I'm just gonna scale it down a little bit on the y-axis, and I'm gonna delete this unnecessary geometry over here. Now you can see the trigger part, it goes up and scales it by y-axis just a little bit. Select this face, you're gonna delete this face and select this edge loop in wireframe mode, just slightly extrude it up, maybe align this so it looks a little bit better. Add a loop cut somewhere around here, select these two faces, scaling out by y-axis, maybe add another loop cut just to make this a little bit smoother. Good, we are good to go. Now as you can see, this part is a little bit curved, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take this face, okay, I'm just gonna slightly move them like this, okay. They should be good to go. We're just gonna add maybe some bevels here, so this part doesn't look this flat. So we're just gonna slide bevels over here and a slight bevel down there, and that is good to go. Apply your auto smooth, and this is good to go. Now to make this part where you slide or you press it and the magazine just falls off, we're gonna do that by adding our 3D cursor in the middle of this shape. I'm gonna add a circle with 12 vertices, gonna rotate it by x-axis, scale it down, and align this orange dot, the origin, with the reference, okay. Now you're gonna take and delete these vertices, so you're left with this vertex over here now, and you're just gonna extrude it downwards and extrude it upwards slightly. Select these two, extrude it, and line it with this vertex. Fill these faces, select these two vertices, and scale them by z-axis just a little bit so we get this smooth transition. Again, I learned this from Aryan. Aryan was using this in this video, but I find his workflow very helpful and effective, so I'm just using it as well. Now to make this thick, just extrude it by y-axis slightly and symmetrize it. Delete this unnecessary thing over here and fill it with icons. Okay, now of course flip your faces and add some bevels on this side with quite a few segments, okay, and a slight bevel over here again with a few segments. Now I'm going to make the magazine, so we're gonna take this face, and you can see that the magazine goes right after this part, so we can use this face and a part of this face. So we're just gonna head onto wireframe mode and align it right where it should be. So these are the faces we're gonna use for the magazine. Inset it slightly, just slightly, okay, and you're gonna scale it on y-axis just so we get that gap over here. And you can see that this part goes slightly down like this. Dissolve this face. Now we have these two vertices over here, and you're gonna align those right where this part goes, okay. So we can just add a loop cut, another one over here, and take these two edges and just scale them down by y-axis. Now I get the shape for the magazine. I know, This topology is super bad. It's horrible. I know. You don't have to tell it to me. I know that this topology is horrible. I know that you're gonna probably hate me after this video, after the topology I did over here. But I am sorry, okay? I am truly sorry. I'm really sorry. So we're gonna try to fix some topology over here just so I don't get messed up topology next. So yeah. Alright, just symmetrize it so it looks somewhat good, okay? Alright, and once you have symmetrized this, you might as well just change the scale just a bit. And select these faces, extrude it up. Again, I'm very sorry for this topology, but this is fully enough, okay? I'll select this edge. I'm just going to merge everything so I don't get any weird topology. Okay, so select these now. This is gonna be the shape of our magazine. Shift D to duplicate it and P to separate it. Now put the 3D cursor somewhere here where the pivot of the magazine is. Select all the vertices, select your spin tool, and just make a spin, just a slide one. Now play around with these sliders till you get the rough shape of it. I think I'm gonna need to pull this down a little bit, pull this a little bit to the side, and decrease the angle because it's not that long. And fill this with an angle. Okay. This is the basic shape of the magazine. Now on the reference image over here, I can see that there's still a small gap here. So we're gonna make it by just adding a loop cut over here. Select these faces. You can select it only on one side and just apply a mirror modifier. Alt E and extrude manifold. You're just gonna extrude it slightly inside. Now delete these unnecessary faces that it created. I'm gonna add some bars. I know that the AK-47's mag is not this flat. It has these slight 3 bars. I think it's only 3. So I'm just gonna add 6 number of cuts. I am going to select every second of it, okay? And you're going to inset it just slightly and extrude it along normals. And you can either put it like this, okay, or you can put it slightly outwards like this, and that's how I'm going to do it. Now take these edges, and if you don't care about your poly count, you can basically just bevel it slightly with a few segments. Good. Now if we shade it smooth and crank this down a little bit, this looks pretty good to me. Now just hit it with a symmetrize and delete this unnecessary geometry. And that is it for the magazine. So now we're gonna do the upper receiver. Now the upper receiver is pretty difficult, but again, we're just gonna do it because it's maybe difficult for someone else, but easy for us, okay? So add a cube, scale it down just roughly the height, and put your vertices. You're just gonna align it slightly like this, okay? Scale it down by x-axis slightly, and according to reference, just scale it on the y-axis again, just slightly. I can see that there's a bevel over here, okay? There's a small dent over here. And I would say that the end of the bevel is here, and the beginning of the bevel is somewhere here. So you're gonna add some loop cuts over there. Take these 2 faces, scale it down on y-axis, and just make a bevel over here with a lot of cuts because we need some geometry later on, just like that. Then you're gonna also make some bevels on here, just like that. Shade it auto smooth. Now isolate this and delete all these unnecessary faces so we get this flat shape. Now what you're gonna do to make this curve over here, you're just gonna move your vertices over here, add a loop cut so it defines this flat surface over here. I'm gonna hit it with a symmetrize right now and delete the geometry that I made so we get 2 loop cuts over here. Connect these 2, fill this face down here. We're just gonna put our pivot point over here. Select the pivot point as 3D cursor. Select your shear tool. Now select all these vertices and just shear it like this till it aligns with the reference. Now just fill it with an hang-on, it doesn't matter, and slightly bevel this with a few segments again. Now select these, and you can see over here that on the part where the fire selector is, it is slightly it is cut out over here, but it's, yeah, we're just gonna do it by pulling these just slightly on this part. Okay, we're going to add a loop cut that defines this edge, and also add a loop cut that defines this edge, just like that, and just join these vertices and delete this. Okay, once you've done that, you can see that it didn't affect this part, which is just what we needed. And now we're gonna start working on this part. You can see it's also cut out over here, so you're just going to shape it out in the normal mode so it doesn't affect the other side, and just shape it with these vertices that you get here. Once you have roughly shaped it out, add your 3D cursor over here, select all these vertices, select your pivot point as your 3D cursor, scale them on the x-axis by 0, and that is good. Extrude it all the way to the end and just snap it on this vertex. We got a slight problem over here, I guess, so we're just gonna fix it by extruding this over here, filling it, and just fill this face over here. Okay, that's good. Add some thickness into it by selecting everything, extrude faces along normals, and slightly make it thicker. Okay, and flip all the normals. Now what we're gonna need to do this bullet exit. I don't know how it's called. Let me find it. This thing. Just select all these vertices. Now again, this is Aryans workflow, so really helpful one. So I'm gonna leave a link in the description. Just go check him out. He makes awesome videos. To shift duplicate it, P separate it, select the mesh, select this vertice, extrude it slightly downward so it goes slightly into the lower receiver. Extrude it just slightly, put your 3D cursor over here, scale it by x-axis, make sure that your pivot point is set to 3D cursor, and just pull it to the ends. Okay, so we get the shape over here. Now what you are going to do, flip all the faces if you need to, select everything, make it a 3D solid object by just extruding it inwards, select everything, flip the faces once again. Now delete the faces down here and on the side. Now if you select everything here and you inset it with boundary on, it insets only this part. Make sure to inset it as much as you can, but so there are no overlaps or anything. Okay, once you have done that, just select all these vertices on the right hand side and just put it somewhere where you think that this thing starts. Okay, now I can see it starts on the dent on the magazine on this side, so I'm just gonna pull it slightly over here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna delete all my faces on this side, put my 3D cursor over here, select all these vertices, and might as well just push these a little bit by the x-axis so we get more space. So select these vertices over here, select your shear tool, make sure the pivot point is set to 3D cursor, and just slightly shear it like this so we get this topology over here. You can actually delete these ones as well, you don't need it. Delete it. Bevel this vertex by pressing Ctrl-Shift-P and deleting these unnecessary vertices that it created here. Yeah, it's an hang-on, but who cares. Now, to fill out this shape, what you're gonna do, you're gonna select basically this geometry. You're gonna put your 3D cursor over here, select the vertices over here, put your 3D cursor over here, extrude, right click, scale it down on 0 by 0. What am I talking? Scale it down by the Z axis on 0, select this vertex and selection to cursor. and just do that once you filled the shape. So select everything, extrude, right click, scale it down by z-axis on 0, select this vertex, boom, like this, and just do it all the way down. And once you have filled out the shape, just take this part and move it on the x-axis just a little bit so we just fill out this shape. And press A, merge everything, and it's gonna merge everything into a one single vertex. So that is good. Now apply the sharp edges over here, so we get this blue line over here. Okay, you're gonna do that by selecting these edges that are meant to be sharp and right click mark sharp. Once you're done that, just delete the unnecessary faces on this side so we get this 2D shape. Select this edge and move it just where the end of this lower receiver is, and that is good. Now we're gonna do the fire selector again. Aryans workflow, I know, but it's just too genius, I couldn't resist. Add a circle with 16 vertices, rotate it by x-axis on 90 degrees, scale it down, align the origin with the pivot point on the reference, scale it down. Actually set your pivot point to medium point, scale it down, delete unnecessary vertices over here, select this vertex, extrude it, and start just aligning it with the blueprint. Fill this, and you're gonna get this shape. This is the basic shape of it. And now just fill it with quads. So move your vertex somewhere over here and start filling it with only quads, just like that. Add a loop cut over here, slide it so it matches this vertex, select these four, make a face over here, and make a face with this. This is going to be anagon, but it does not matter. Extrude it slightly, inset them slightly, and you're going to make sure to align it with the reference. Okay, now select these vertices, join them so we get this slightly curved shape. I don't seem to find the perfect reference for it. Basically this part, you can see it goes slightly like this. Now select everything but not this. Extrude it a little bit once again. So add a edge loop over here. You can see it aligns it with this one. And it should be aligning with this one as well. You're just gonna need to probably slide some geometry so it faces the correct way, just like this. Okay, now what you're gonna do, you're gonna select all the faces and the new ones that we created, so without these, and you're just gonna extrude it again, just slightly. Dissolve this face. It's gonna make an anagon, but that does not matter. Add a loop cut that defines this point. Slide this vertex over here. Add a loop cut that defines this point, and yeah, add a loop cut in the middle of this. Slide it down, push it a little bit up. Add a loop cut over here. Slide it up, push it a little bit down. Now select these two and just extrude these along normals and dissolve these edges. Now we are almost ready, but now we're just gonna make some slight bevels over here, merge everything, perfect. Now we're gonna make this sort of shape over here, this circle. So you're gonna do that by putting your 3D cursor in the middle of this pivot, basically. You're going in edit mode, add a circle with 16 vertices, rotate it by x-axis on 90 degrees, scale it down so it matches with the reference, and move them and snap it basically right on this surface. Now you're gonna fill this, extrude, scale it down, inset, extrude, select everything, flip the normals, make a bevel over here on these two edges, like this, bevel this, okay, with a few segments, just like that. Merge everything if you need, and just add some sharp points to your model. Now it's pretty easy to understand which part is sharp, which is not. Believe me, you don't need to like know Blender for this. You're just gonna see it with your eye. Once you've selected all your sharp edges, just right click, mark sharp, and yeah, let me add some bevels on this side maybe. I think it should be looking good, okay, if I add some bevels over here with a few segments. Nobody's gonna judge me for that, and just remove these sharp edges from here. Clear sharp and add the sharp edges over here. Okay, and this shape looks good in my opinion. I might as well just crank this up a little bit. Good. Now let's create the shape that you grip your finger when basically pulling this thing. I genuinely don't know how it's called. Tell me in the comments if you know. So select these two edges, these faces, okay? I keep messing up the edges and faces, but I think you understand me. Add a plane, rotate it by 90 degrees so it faces us, scale it down, align it with the reference. I got a reference up here, so just align it, align the vertices, select everything, align it with this reference as well, so pull it down a little bit, select these, pull it down a little bit. Okay, now select everything and make it a little bit thick. Now you're gonna do the same thing as you did with the trigger, so you're just gonna extrude and outline this shape basically. Alright, and once you've done that, you're just gonna select these sharp edges over here, these 4 edges, hit it with loop tool space, loop tools relax, flip all the normals if you need to. Now I can see, judging by this reference, that this part goes a little bit up, so I'm just gonna select these, and I'm probably just going to pull it upwards just a little bit. Add a loop cut over here, pull a little bit down, and just add a few bevels. Okay, merge everything if you need to, and yeah, and a bevel over here would be good, I think. Okay, that is good. Now shade smooth, and this should be looking pretty good. Okay, I don't know where my geometry over here it just vanished out of the model, so I'm just gonna redo it. Okay, I don't care, I'm just gonna redo it really quickly. It's crazy, right, when your meshes just vanish randomly. Probably only happens to me, but yeah, I'm okay with it. Alright, we have done it. Now we're just gonna cut out the shape for this part. I might as well hide this reference back here so it doesn't mess with our stuff. Now on the receiver, I'm just gonna add a loop cut over here, probably a little bit in it, and a loop cut up here, just like that. Delete these faces that are blocking it. Fill this shape just like that, and now you're just gonna bevel these edges, just slide a bit, and delete these unnecessary vertices over here. And yeah, we're pretty much done. This is actually the 3rd attempt of trying to record this video because I keep messing up something. So now we're moving on to texturing. Now before doing that, you probably want to apply your booleans. Okay, probably want to apply your modifiers so it doesn't mess with our UVs. So what you're gonna do, we're just gonna add a seam over here. Now keep in your mind that I'm bad at unwrapping, so if I get a good result, I'm gonna be so happy. So add a seam over here, add a seam on this edge, mark seam, and this should be perfectly unwrapped. Now I'm going to test it by adding on to materials tab and changing the material name to UV test. Heading on to shading tab, the UV test, add an image texture, new, put it on 2K, name this UV test, UV grid 32-bit float color to base color, and unwrap this thing. This is not good. Okay, and I probably know why, because I didn't add a seam over here. And yeah, I didn't add a seam over here as well. Unwrap, and this looks decent, okay? This looks very good. Apply the UV test on this one, and it looks horrible here, but don't worry, we still haven't unwrapped it. So just select your sharp edges on here. Okay, delete these, I don't need these. Mark seam, and we're just gonna do the part over here just by adding some seams on here. Mark seam. This shape is fairly simple, so I don't expect to have any severe problems. That's what I usually say, and I end up messing it up. So yeah, add a seam over here. Let's unwrap this. Good. This is perfect. This is an absolute masterpiece. This is just too good, okay? I'm so happy for this. And now we're gonna unwrap this. Now this is gonna be a little bit difficult to do so, but I really hope I'm not gonna mess up. I'm gonna disable my sharp edges over here so I can see the orange outline better. And I'm just gonna add a seam on these sharp edges over here. Mark seam. Also might as well just mark seam over here. Mark seam. Do the same thing over here. Mark seam. I'm gonna mark a seam over here as well. And yeah, might as well just delete these back faces over here so it does not mess up our UVs later. Add a seam around this thing. Okay, mark seam. And of course add some seams on this beveled part. That's a thing as well, you know. Mark seam, unwrap. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, this is just perfect. I don't care what you say. Of course, if you have any suggestions, just type in the comments. I will be happy to hear it. This part fairly easy. Just add seams on the edges. Okay, boom. Mark seam. Apply the UV test on this one. UV unwrap, good. This was expected, of course. Now this one is gonna be a little bit tough because we have a lot of bevels here, but essentially you're just gonna mark all the ends of the bevels. So it's just these faces over here, these edges, mark seam, and you're gonna also mark it as a seam over here. Apply the UV test and hope that it will work, and UV unwrap, and it works. That's good. Also mark the sharp edges. Nothing difficult here, nothing special here. Just mark the sharp edges. UV unwrap, good. Good. This is genuinely good. I like this. The trigger, also nothing difficult. Similar to the thing that we did earlier. Just select all the ends of the bevels. Okay. In this upper part, and mark it as seam, and this lower part as well, mark it as seam. Apply the UV test to this. UV unwrap. Good. Okay, I might as well delete some of these seams. Maybe it'll look good still, right? Yeah, this looks good. Now moving on to this part, nothing difficult, just select these sharp edges without this one. Mark seam, apply the UV test, and unwrap it, and it works. It's good. Now, lastly, we'll remain with the mag. Also nothing difficult. Mark all the sharp edges. Okay. And mark the beginnings of the bevels. Okay. Mark only the beginnings of the bevels. And some sharp edges over here, I see. mark seam, and add a seam up here. Mark seam. And now we're gonna apply the UV test. UV unwrap, and this looks just as good as I thought it would be. I'm super proud of myself actually that I managed to do this without any other videos, without any videos helping. So I am super proud of myself. So good. Now to export this into Substance Painter, just head on. I will delete all these UV tests from all the models. We're gonna name all the parts separately into material. So this is the lower receiver, just select material, lower receiver, upper receiver, fire selector. Alright, and once you're done naming all the objects with corresponding materials, copy all you did today. You gotta first save this, of course, copy it into a new project. Okay, copy paste it into a new project, and as you can see, all the materials and stuff are here, and just export this as an FBX file. Open up Substance Painter. Alright, and once you've opened up Substance Painter, first thing you're gonna do, you open the previous rear grip project, okay? And you are going to save these materials so you don't have to do it all over again on all the objects. So for that, I'm just gonna create a folder basically. I'm gonna paste all the materials in there. It's easy. I don't think you need me to show it this too. Now I'm gonna right click on the folder, name it first of all correspondingly, right click and click create smart materials. So now in this section, the second one, you're gonna have that material over here. How crazy is that? And you're gonna do the same thing with the wood. Okay, now you are ready to create a new project with the part 2 receiver. Document resolution, I'm gonna put it on 2K. Make sure the normal map format is on OpenGL. Press OK, discard, we don't need this anymore. And first of all, of course, bake the mesh maps. Output size, I'm putting it 2K. Select all the maps you need, bake selected textures. So from now on, the job is pretty easy. You just select the materials you made and you drag and drop it onto your model. And that's it. You just do it with all the corresponding parts. But here I put it actually wrong. It has to be an iron there, so we're gonna leave that for now. We're gonna make a separate material for that. AK-47 metal. Okay, just get everything like this, and this looks pretty good to me. No, I think I'm gonna change the mag a little bit, make it probably a little more rough, and increase the roughness just slightly a bit. Okay, and just for the magazine, I want it to be a little bit more rough than other things, so it just stands out of every other material. And now we're gonna create this iron, so it's not anything difficult. Just head on here, search for iron. Okay, let's bullet exit iron. Let's select any iron you want. This looks pretty good. Paste it on and you should be ready to go. You can change basically the color of it, but I don't think you need to do that right now. And just put the same material over here. Good. And we are ready to go. File, export textures, select your directory. I already have my directory over here. Name this part 2 receiver. Select the folder, set the output size at 2K. Now export it. And once you have exported everything, open up Blender again, open the previous project that you just made. You don't need this anymore, you just need this to export it as a separate thing. And now start applying your materials. So select, I'm gonna start from up to top, so upper receiver, head on to shading tab, activate your no wrangler before doing this. So search for no wrangler in the add-ons over here, select it. Select this object, select principal BSDF, it's important, and press Ctrl Shift T. Now head on to the textures, part 2 receiver, and search for upper receiver metal. Upper receiver metal, select all these and import it into Blender. Now I'm gonna do this bullet exit iron. I know this name is so dumb, but why not? Okay. So do the same thing with all the stuff, okay? Alright, and we are done. We are done with the part 2, we are done with the receiver. We are done with this part. I think this looks fairly good, okay? This looks good to me. So be sure to save this project, and yeah, this is pretty much it. Next part is probably going to be the hand grip and the butt stop, okay? And yeah, the next part is probably going to be the barrel, and the next one is going to be adding the remaining details, okay? I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you learned something new, and I really hope that you're enjoying this series and you're gonna watch it to the end. So, and another thing I want to tell you, thank you so much for 300 subscribers. I'm not kidding. Like previous Thursday, on Thursday, we just hit 200 subscribers. Right now I'm gonna check my YouTube studio, and boom, I have 300 subscribers. So thank you so much for the support, and thank you Aryan for this huge support. I really appreciate it. So yeah, have a nice day.